I'm standing here at Vann's Tavern, typical 1820s, 1830s commercial building that would have been at New Echota. We had about 3 dozen buildings at New Echota, and if you look at the structure here, you'll see that you have 2 different types of architecture being used. One, the Cherokees did have sawmills throughout their nation, and you'll see that there's milled lumber on the left side of the structure, while on the right side, the front door going into the structure, you actually see that it's a timber constructed building. Most of the houses, the barns, the corn cribs, and other support buildings at this time period on the Cherokee farms, and even commercial buildings, were log structures. You can see the corners, how they're notched together, and dovetail, lap joints, and other methods. They didn't need nails or any metal spikes to hold the structure together. The weight of the timber and the way the joints locked in together is what kept the building together. This is one of a typical building about every 25 miles you would have found on the roads throughout the Cherokee Nation. This provided overnight lodging. It provided commercial sales of just retail goods and trade that you could carry on with the owner of the store. This particular building came from over along the Chattahoochee River. It was originally owned and built by James Vann, a wealthy mixed-blood Cherokee planter. The structure was still standing when the Chattahoochee River was being dammed up to form Lake Lanier Reservoir. They knew the history of the significance of this story, and so they were able to retrieve the building, take it apart, bring it over here, and it was reconstructed to be part of the public park as New Echota was being formed back in the early and mid-1950s. A store like this would have been found throughout the Cherokee Nation, as well as throughout Georgia, Tennessee, and Alabama area. You could buy goods downstairs, you could stay upstairs overnight. The going rate was about 25 cents per night for room and board, meaning you'd get yourself a meal for the night, a bed to sleep on, and then you could continue your journey maybe 25 miles down to where Rome is today on the Etowah River. And along the Etowah River, you would have found something similar to this, whether it be a brick building, a stone building, milled lumber, or the hand-hewed notched building like you see here. The Cherokee had a variety of construction techniques they were using, and these had been adopted over a long period. A lot of times people think that Cherokees lived a very traditional way of life, and then a snap of a finger, so to speak, they were assimilating into our culture. But it was something that had been happening for 100+ years. And so by the 1820s, the lifestyle of a typical Cherokee farmer could have been either very traditional in many ways, or it could have been very contemporary to what a Georgia settler, a Tennessee farmer would have had at that time period also. As I say, this would have been one of about 3 dozen buildings that would have been at New Echota. The public buildings mainly being the council house, the courthouse, the printing shop for the newspaper, but then you had stores in addition to this one, as well as people's houses, barns, and corn cribs, things that were very typical of the farming lifestyle of that time period.